Earlier today on Tumblr, someone left the following message in my ask box. Yeah, they stuffed my ask really good. Building Temples asked,
My boyfriend and I love your solo YouTube videos and the ones for the drunken peasants. While we are Republican Christians, we agree with your views widely. Enjoy seeing you refuting SJW articles, etc. Keep doing your thing, dude. You are great!
To which I responded, I find it hard to believe that my content appeals to Republican Christians, but if that is the case, I'm happy to have you. Any viewpoint is welcome in my audience, so long as you're not afraid of having your viewpoint challenged. I meant what I said, but I must confess that my first thought when these fuckers wrote me was, why the fuck are conservative Christians watching an atheist liberal? But of course, the answer is right there. Enjoy seeing you refuting SJW articles. We'll get back to that in a moment. I also noticed in the comments to the Alex Jones video that many of those in my audience don't understand my support for Bernie Sanders. One of the biggest grievances I've heard is that I'm supporting an SJW candidate. The other thing I've heard is that I don't understand economics. So, something has happened here. Something totally new. For the first time in my channel's history, I'm getting conservative viewers. Now, of course, I'm sure there's people out there who will say, I'm a conservative and I've been watching you since 2008. Well, I'm sure that's true, but it's never been a significant part of my audience until now. So I'd like to welcome the conservatives to my YouTube channel. I'm sorry if this is long overdue, but this phenomena sort of snuck up on me. I want you to know that even though I'm liberal and you're conservative, I'm not interested in changing your mind. I'm here to share my perspectives, not alter yours. I'm a firm believer in the idea that this world would not be very intellectually stimulating if we all thought and felt the same. We've all heard it said that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Now, I don't think that's always true, but it does seem to be the case that a mutual threat does bring enemies together. You're here on this channel because you too are worried about SJWs and the ideas they propagate. Now, some people in my audience have chastised me of late for making too many videos on the subject of SJWs. Some say the topic has grown stale. Some say that the SJWs are of little consequence and therefore not worthy of the attention they receive. And not just from me, they get called out on their shit all the time by popular YouTube channels like Thunderfoot, Sargon of Akkad, TLDR, Mr. Repsion, Shoe on Head, Mundane Matt, and tons more. Why are so many channels devoted to talking about SJWs? Why has frustration with SJWs become so powerful that it has actually bridged the gap between me and conservative Christians, or at least conservatives, who would never have taken a second look at my channel 4 years ago? I mean, think about it. This topic, the topic of SJWs, has forced once popular liberals out of favor with the liberal mainstream, with what many are calling the regressive left, or the politically correct, or the SJWs, or assholes. Examples I'd cite: Bill Maher, Sam Harris, Dave Rubin, all of these guys have said things that the regressive left doesn't like, and now they're persona non grata in a lot of circles that used to praise and adulate them. And that's the interesting thing about this whole PC, SJW, regressive, feminist, Black Lives Matter, whatever shit. It's redrawing the battle lines in what some call the false dichotomy of our politics, the left and right dichotomy. And now we have a flamboyant gay man named Milo Yiannopoulos writing for ultra-conservative Breitbart.com and conservative Christians writing the Amazing Atheist fan mail. Do you guys realize how bizarre things are right now? I mean, it's almost as if I've slipped into an alternate fucking universe. And I think I figured out exactly why this bizarre new age has dawned. Because I've had a little longer than most to think about it. After all, it was July 22nd of 2011 when I put out a video called "It's Only Sexist When Men Do It," which currently sits at about 2.3 million views. Now, I could be mistaken, but I don't think any of the channels I listed earlier were talking about this subject before then. My point here is not to self-aggrandize by portraying myself as a trailblazer, though that is a neat fringe benefit, but instead to demonstrate just how long these issues have been on my mind, and also to demonstrate that I cared about these issues before they were the flavor of the month. I'd even go so far as to say that, at least where YouTube is concerned, I may have helped to set this trend. Not just with the "it's only sexist when men do it" video, but also with many, many follow-ups along the same vein, many, but not all, of which can be found in my anti-feminism, pro-equality playlist, which I'll go ahead and try to remember to include in the description of this video. But no matter how many times I circle our current paradigm of SJWs rewriting the script of what left-right politics are and infecting everything from the most obscure corners of the internet up to the biggest channels on YouTube, up to the mainstream political pundits, up to what comes out of the mouths of our presidential candidates, I inexorably find myself thinking about the topic of nuance. That dreaded word, nuance. People fucking hate nuance, especially Americans. They revile it, they spit on it, they despise it. I'll give you an example outside the realm of politics, because we're going to come back around to politics, but I want you to see it in an apolitical manner first. Kanye West. Yeah, I'm working him into this somehow. Most people at this point agree that he's a jerk. He's done so many flat-out, unlikable things that most people hate his fucking guts. A lot of that hatred is driven by headlines like, "Kanye West demands fan in wheelchair stand up. Oh my God, what a fucking scumfuck." I remember when that story broke, everyone was talking about what a prick Kanye was. Many sources were reporting the story as vague as possible to make it seem as if Kanye had refused to go on until a man in a wheelchair literally rose from his seat. Like Kanye figured TV pastors can make the lame to walk, so why can't I? I too am God's anointed messenger upon this earth. The problem is that Kanye didn't realize the fan was in a wheelchair. As soon as he actually learned this fact, he went on with the performance. Now, you can say that Kanye's a pretentious dick for wanting literally everyone in the audience on their feet just because he said so, but really, think about it. If you paid good money to see Kanye, you're a Kanye fan, and that's what the fuck you expect. Don't pay to see Kanye if you don't like fucking Kanye. The point is, he didn't make some ridiculous and impossible demand of a disabled person. He simply made a mistake. He told a fan to stand because he thought the fan was capable of standing. Once he realized the fan was incapable of standing, he withdrew the request, or demand, if you like. This nuance was lost on people. Why? Well, it's because that asshole Kanye tried to force a crippled fan to stand is a lot simpler than what really happened, and it can be explained in a single sentence. It fits comfortably and neatly within the existing perception of Kanye. It appeals to our confirmation bias. It appeals to our desire for easily digestible and easily graspable tidbits of information. A quick second example. If ever the topic of discussion turns to frivolous lawsuits, someone will inevitably bring up the example of the woman who sued McDonald's after she spilled hot coffee in her lap. Now, just like the Kanye incident, it fits neatly into an existing narrative, the narrative about frivolous lawsuits. And it can easily be explained in one sentence. And in one sentence, it sounds ridiculous and infinitely mockable. Coffee is supposed to be hot. Any fucking idiot knows that shit. think this headline from the Daily Mail actually sums things up nicely. The truth behind the hot coffee lawsuit. The elderly woman who became a punchline had 16% of her body covered in burns, and McDonald's had ignored 700 earlier complaints about excessively hot drinks. Stella Liebeck was 79 years old in 1992 when she was in her grandson's parked car and spilled coffee on her lap. She stayed in the hospital for a week while doctors treated her third-degree burns, and they feared she would not survive. A jury eventually awarded her $2.9 million, and the case gained national attention, even though the final sum she was paid is still unknown. Her lawyers argued that McDonald's had to lower the temperature of their coffee from the standard 180 to 190 degree setting. This is a picture of Stella Liebeck receiving a skin graft due to the injury caused by McDonald's coffee. Since I was about 8 years old, I've heard my parents and teachers and others talk about this case, but they never discussed any of the things mentioned in the above headline. All they said was that some idiot woman sued McDonald's for daring to serve her hot coffee. Not only was she burned severely and nearly fatally by coffee that was obviously too hot to be served to human beings, but she was made into a joke. She was crucified as an example of money-hungry people who will sue at the drop of a hat, no matter how baseless their claim. Why? Because incendiary headlines are easy, just like spiking a girl's drink, and nuance is hard, just like Bill Cosby's cock. People think they can infer everything they need to know based on a very crude and almost childish understanding of the facts. But the devil, as they say, is in the details. You may like to think of yourself as an exception to this observation about human nature. You are a very bright person. You understand nuance. You understand that everything is contextual. You aren't satisfied with a simplistic understanding of the issues. But no one is immune to this problem. You're a human being with biases, and biases tend to help us overlook details. If you like and respect someone and they're accused of murder, you're probably going to reflexively disbelieve the claim. You're going to give them the greatest benefit of the doubt possible. But if someone you despise and have always thought extremely poorly of is accused of murder, you're going to feel that pleasant little surge of vindication. I always told him he was no good. And you're going to convict that person in your head before you've seen a shred of evidence. The evidence, if anything, is just a formality. Now, maybe you object to this characterization of yourself. Maybe you would be even-handed and objective in either instance. But even if that's true, there's always going to be some chink in your armor. There's always going to be some place where you accept something on poor evidence. Maybe because of emotional bias. Or maybe just because it doesn't seem important and you don't think about it too hard. Or maybe because you're in a high-pressure situation and you don't have time to ascertain details, or don't feel as though you have time to ascertain details. I think it's also important to note that I do not exempt myself from my own criticism here. There are plenty of times where I have ignored nuance in order to make my point more concisely. And to give you an example, I can finally bring this video back to the subject of SJWs, this time in the form of third-wave feminists. One of my most popular quotations on the subject of feminism is, "Feminism attempts to make both sexes equal by focusing on the issues of only one of them." Now, I might have butchered my own quote there, but this statement was originally a tweet, and a very popular one at that. Now, is it nuanced? Well, it was a tweet. So no, it wasn't. Not all feminists are the same. Not all feminists believe in equality. Some believe in female supremacy. That's just a fact. Not all, some. Not all feminists focus only on women's issues. Some do care about men's issues. There isn't room to explain all of that in one little pithy statement on Twitter. That doesn't make the statement invalid. That just means that it's incumbent upon the audience to understand that statement in the context of the current debates between various incarnations of feminism and various incarnations of anti-feminism. But here's a problem. There is one thing that almost all feminists share in common, that all SJWs in general share in common, and it's this. They put forth ideas, but they do not care whether or not their ideas are understood. That's very strange. There's a reason, though, that Anita Sarkeesian disables comments on all of her videos. And I speculate that it has nothing to do with harassment or bullying, as she claims. And upon further reflection, I think perhaps that it's not even to do with silencing dissent, as I and others have claimed. I think that she disables comments because she doesn't want to answer critics. She knows that dissent against her opinions exists and that it's actually quite popular. She knows that criticisms of her work and her ideas abounds and that she can never ever stop it. But she doesn't want to confront it. I think the reason is not even so much that she can't, but that she doesn't want to. The scariest thing about SJWs is that they don't lack nuance because they're too stupid to see nuance, but rather because they actively oppose it as a concept. Their worldview is such that nuance frightens them, because if they say there's a racist patriarchy that oppresses women and minorities, they don't just want you to not challenge that. They don't even want to permit the smallest caveat to that. Let me provide some evidence. Just look at how they approach rape. The mantra is that men need to listen and believe. If Kesha accuses a man of raping her, it's automatically viewed as true by the SJWs, as evidenced by the recent Free Kesha hashtag. If a girl says she was raped, that's good enough for Rolling Stone to print an article about it and to vilify an entire frat house and make it seem as if rape is part of their initiation rituals. Even when that story was demonstrated to be false, the SJW narrative was unfazed. Their primary concern was that such a prominent story about false rape would make people less likely to automatically accept rape claims. In other words, they were scared of people becoming more skeptical. They were afraid of nuance. For more on this subject, you can check out my videos, Feminism and Rape, Belief Without Evidence, and Feminist Assumptions and the Great UVA Rape Hoax. More evidence of the pathological aversion that SJWs have towards nuance is their abiding hatred of the phrase, not all men, which I explored in my video, Not All Men, 3 words feminists hate and why they should be said. The only reason they hate the phrase not all men is because it attempts to inject unwanted nuance into their worldview. For some reason, they think that if some men harass them on the street, then all men should be implicated in that. If some men rape, then we need to teach men not to rape. They hate the phrase not all men because it subverts the narrative that all of the problems of sexism are systemic. The last piece of evidence that I will offer that most SJWs actively revile nuance, though certainly nowhere near the last piece of evidence I could offer to this effect, is this. I've made extremely popular videos against SJWs of all stripes, feminists, race baiters, language police, etc., and it's clear that they hate my stinking, rotten fucking guts. Any chance they get to attack my character, they take it. They've called me a micro dick, a misogynist, a shitlord, an edgelord, a dude bro, a mansplainer, a neckbeard, a fedora wearer. They hate that hat for some reason. A pedophile, a rapist, a rape apologist, a rape supporter. They took my comedic series of banned from videos seriously, and some of them to this day think that I was literally banned from numerous restaurants. They are quick to cast on me any aspersion that they can muster. So you know they know about me. You know they hate me. But you know what they never do? With only a very small handful of exceptions? They never address
my arguments. Why? Well, their spin is that my arguments are so self-evidently wrong and without merit that they don't even warrant a response. I don't agree with that narrative. It's my opinion that they abstain from actual responses to my criticism because by even replying to it, they are forced to confront nuance. And they truly have no argument against nuance. How could they? Looking at the world without caring about details or context is completely indefensible as a position unless the argument is simply ignorance is bliss. Maybe they should say ignorance is feminism. Ignorance is politically correct language policing bullshit. So, the reason I have conservatives following me, the reason liberals are getting their good guy badges revoked by other liberals for being too offensive, the reason a flamboyant gay man named Milo Yiannopoulos is a hero of the conservative new media, the reason why all of the battle lines are in the process of being redrawn is because there are those who want nuance in the debate, and there are those who don't. And due to the aforementioned human predilection for favoring easily digestible, immediately comprehensible information, the side that eschews nuance is winning. Make no mistake about it. There's a reason every mainstream media story about Anita Sarkeesian is positive. There's a reason why college campuses are overrun by political correctness and cry bullying. There's a reason why almost all of social media, with the exception of YouTube, is overrun by SJW types, and why Anita Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn get to speak to the United Nations and get to help police Twitter. And there's a reason why practically no mainstream voices rise up to challenge them. It's because eschewing nuance works. It's rewarded. So, to my audience, I say this. Whether you are a believer or a non-believer, whether you are liberal or conservative or reject both of those terms, whatever your race, whatever your gender, whatever your sensibilities, let us all be united by this one thing. Let us all be united in our willingness to explore ideas and to both give and receive legitimate criticism. Let us be united in our ability to be persuaded by evidence and by argumentation. Let us be united by our appreciation for nuance and our refusal to blindly accept dogma and to explore the issues and decide for ourselves. I am the Amazing Atheist. Peace the fuck out.